Hello and welcome to this latest edition of the PR Week video podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the PR tactics in play for the upcoming presidential election. And to do so, I'm joined in the studio today by Simon Hill and Olly Kendall, both senior consultants for top lobbying agency Inside Public Affairs. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Now, to start straight off, how effective have the PR campaigns been able to market strengths and mitigate the weaknesses of the candidates?
I think that if you look at the Democratic campaign, Barack Obama with Joe Biden, you look at Obama's strengths. He's a very, very good communicator. His ability to be able to stand up in front of a large crowd with no notes, with no lectern, and connect with the voters is very powerful. If you look at his weaknesses, you could say, well, he's inexperienced and he doesn't have the background in foreign policy. And to do that, the campaigns have put someone like Joe Biden with him. Joe Biden is a very experienced senator, and he has a very strong background in foreign policy and security. If you look at the McCain campaign, for the Republicans, John McCain is an experienced senator. He's been in the House for many, many years. And those are perceived as strengths for him, but he is known as a maverick. It is interesting that actually they picked Sarah Palin to try and counter that, and that perhaps has not worked so well for them.
Yeah, certainly in terms of strengths and weaknesses, as far as I'm concerned, it's very much been the Republican side that have made the big mistakes with the big weaknesses. We've seen John McCain forgetting how many houses he's owned. We've seen Sarah Palin's numerous gaffes on TV. And the one thing you do before you start a PR campaign is you try and mitigate those weaknesses. You try and identify what those weaknesses are, make sure you've got a good rebuttal. The Republican campaigns simply haven't been able to do that. What Barack Obama has done incredibly successfully is that any accusation by the McCain campaign of Barack, they've got an immediate rebuttal unit out, got stuff on YouTube satirising John McCain. It's been very effective, and it's something that the Republicans have obviously failed to do in the last 2 months.
So looking at policy and personality separately then, which has obviously been important in both sides, which do you think has dominated the PR campaign?
Well, clearly policy has been an issue. We've had big debates over health, big debates over taxes and the economy. Obviously the stuff with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae dominated news headlines 2 or 3 weeks ago. But the key debate really has been about personality. It's about who is the right person to lead America, who has got the judgment. It's all about, events, dear boy, events. And Americans are very worried right now. They've got the economic downturn, and I think they're really looking to somebody to give them leadership. And in terms of that person for leadership, clearly, as the polls are showing at the moment, I'm sure they'll show them on November 4th, that person is Barack Obama.
I think it's interesting that you talk about personality and policy. I think if one was going to be a purist about it, people want to say that actually policy is the important thing and personality is not. Of course, when you're talking about electing a president, you're talking about some time in the future. You're talking about things that no one can perceive or what might happen. And actually the importance of a person that can be able to deal with that, the importance of the personality is really key. And if you bring it down into simple marketing tactics, you're talking about a product, and you're talking about the marketing of that product. And the product is both the policy but also the person. And the marketing of that has to fit the product you're trying to sell effectively. And you look at the two campaigns, the product of McCain and Palin and the product of Obama and Biden. And it's an interesting debate as to actually who has the better product.
And I think the two key policies which probably have played an issue in this campaign have been Iraq and have been the economy. On Iraq, we've seen Obama talking about withdrawing troops potentially up to within 16 months. I think that's played very popularly domestically within America. We've also seen issues around the economy, and McCain has for so long been a big free marketeer, and the second the economy's gone into meltdown, he's talked about regulation, he's talked about sort of the government talking tough with American financial institutions. It's a big U-turn, and I think it's really exposed his left flank on that one.
Now, you mentioned earlier the use of YouTube and the fact that the Obama camp are immediately able to respond to all of McCain's accusations.
Yeah.
How do you think that the internet has actually changed the PR campaign?
I mean, the internet has been key, clearly, over the last 18 months. I mean, not just the presidential campaign, the primary campaign as well. I mean, both camps have done well. I mean, McCain's biggest success really has been about using Google AdWords. For every dollar spent on the McCain campaign, they've driven $4 in money given to the Republicans by driving people to the McCain Republican website. But it's really Barack that has done the best job of this. Back in 2007, the campaign invested $2 million in software and in hardware. They've got the best people from the Howard Dean campaign and from Facebook running their campaigns. And they're really very effectively combining online campaigning on the social media to drive offline campaigning, so that people are not just hearing about the Democrats online, but they're going away into their communities, into their neighbourhoods, and really energising local people. And it's that sort of combined effect which has been incredibly successful. And also, of course, Barack Obama has been so successful in getting those very, very small donations. Donations under $100 make up 90% of his campaign. That's absolutely huge. And in terms of practicalities, what it means is he's got so much fundraising. He doesn't have to spend time doing those sort of big black tie fundraisers that the other candidates, certainly when he's up against Hillary, and it's also true against McCain, have to spend time doing. So he can really focus himself on the campaign trail, doing that campaigning, which has been a massive boost to the campaign.
I think one of the really interesting things about the using the social media to campaign, funnily enough, before coming into the studio, I was having a look online at the YouTube site, and the Yes We Can video that is on there has something in the region of 11 million hits. Now that cost the Obama camp nothing, absolutely nothing, yet the ability to use that to campaign is extraordinary. And I think that's a sign of things to come in the future.
I mean, McCain missed the big trick. I mean, Howard Dean, 2004, okay, he didn't get the nomination, but he ran a very successful grassroots campaign in terms of engaging and energising the sort of the internet vote. And really, McCain was selected a long time before Obama got the nod by the Democrats. It was obviously the big spat between Hillary and Obama went on for a long time. McCain had a real window there to set the foundations down for internet campaigning, and he missed that chance, and I think he'll rue the day he did.
I mean, it also becomes really clear with the use of Facebook and social networking sites, you know, why he is so popular and how he is so popular with young people. But do you think that and other use of the internet is something that UK politicians can learn from the US?
I think absolutely. I think one of the striking things for me is looking at the campaign that New Labour ran in 1997 and comparing that with the campaign that both Obama and, to a lesser extent perhaps, McCain have run this year. One of the hallmarks of those campaigns is the ability and the control they've had over the media, and that is a clear PR tactic. It worked for Tony Blair and New Labour in 1997, and if you hear people like William Hague talking, the leader of the Conservative Party, shortly after the election, he will tell you how difficult it was to get his message out. Such was the control that New Labour had over the media in 1997 and thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, the alarm bells should really be ringing for the UK politicians now, because they've seen the potency of YouTube and exposing those mistakes. I mean, we've all seen Tina Fey doing that wonderful Sarah Palin impression. But if you look back to the 2005 general election, there were plenty of politicians who made big gaffes, but because we weren't all so familiar with YouTube and those gaffes couldn't be put out there sort of within an hour or so of them being made and seen by an audience that would never have otherwise seen them, they went by fairly unnoticed. I'm thinking of, for example, Charles Kennedy's gaffe during the election when he couldn't remember the key tax spending pledges of the party. Now, if that had happened now, you can guarantee that someone from the Conservative or Labour rebuttal units would have been putting stuff out there on the internet and getting a much wider audience. So they've got to look out for that. I think in terms of sort of the other lessons to learn, it's not just the internet. I mean, look how successful those presidential debates have been on television, drawing absolutely vast audiences. Now, we don't tend to have those three-way televised debates in the UK. We have obviously the stuff over the dispatch box in Westminster and the Commons, but I think, you know, as a country that has really failed to engage voters in the last few elections, or 61% turnout in 2005, it would be a real plus, I think, for voters at the next election to have a series of televised debates, you know, Cameron and the other party leaders thrashing it out together to really engage voters in ways that they haven't done in the past.
It's interesting what you say about the three-way debates. I always remember that Prime Ministers rarely accept them, but leaders of oppositions always ask. But one of the hallmarks is looking at the prospective parliamentary candidates at the moment, the so-called PPCs. They are being actively encouraged now to use social networking sites like Facebook, like YouTube, to be able to get their message out. And it will be a key feature, I think, of the general election in this country in 2010.